Okay, now it's time to animate the CPU. So what we want to do is to make the CPU pad follow the ball and at the same time stay within the borders of the stage. So can only go up till here and up till here. And the way to do that is to make the X position of the CPU equal to the X position of the ball, of course with a delay, because then it will, if we make the X position of the CPU exactly equal to the X position of the ball at every time, it will be impossible to win because it will be following the ball exactly where it goes. So in order to do that, let's go back to our ActionScript file and right inside the play with touch function, start a new line and we'll add an event listener to the stage. Stage.add event listener going to be an event dot enter frame, sorry, enter underscore frame. Then this will activate a function called animate CPU. Now let's create this function, private function animate CPU as an event variable of event, colon void. And we're not going to set the CPU X position equal to the ball's X position. In fact, what we're going to say is as long as the X position of the ball is less than that of the CPU, we're going to decrease a certain amount of pixels from the position, from the X position of the CPU at a given rate, that is at 24 frames per second. That's it. So the ball might be here and the CPU might be going about this speed until it catches up with it, or until it hits the left edge of the stage. Same way when it's to the right of the CPU, so the X position here is greater than that of the CPU pad, and then it will be slowly moving this way until it reaches the right edge of the stage, or until the X position of the CPU pad is equal to that of the ball. The way to do that is here going if, I believe we've called this CPU and this is ball. Okay, CPU dot x is greater than ball dot x, and CPU dot x is greater than CPU dot width over 2. Then what we want to do is to subtract a certain amount of pixels from the X position of the CPU pad. CPU dot X minus equals, let's call it CPU speed. So now we need to create a variable. Let's make it right under the CPU score. Private variable CPU speed. So type number. We'll set it equal to 6 for now. That seems pretty good. Now, where were we? Okay, there we go. Now else, if CPU dot x is less than, ball dot x, and CPU dot x is less than stage dot stage width over 2, or no, sorry, stage dot stage width minus CPU dot width over 2. Okay, so the same boundary rule here that we've been using for the ball and for the player pad and for every boundary example that we've done so far. So in this case, CPU dot x plus equals CPU speed. And that's actually all what we need to animate the CPU.